Hello, welcome back everyone to a brand new episode of IDTALK for Educators Live. I'm your host Kwame Sarfo-Mensah, and this is the show for the unsung heroes of education. And we have a special episode today. As you all know, we're in the month of June, and all across the nation and beyond, you have high school seniors graduating, and they have a decision to make. They can either take the route of higher education, go to college, get the degrees, or you have those who decide that they want to go right into the workforce and start working right away. So, to help us talk about career planning and college planning for our high school seniors, or should I say graduating seniors, I want to bring in a special guest. Her name is Amber Peters, popularly known as Mizz P, and she's an educator, an app developer, author, and an educational consultant, straight out of the Boogie Down Bronx, New York. So shout out to the Bronx. And her mission is to create a new wave in education and bring widespread change in college and career planning for high school students. So without further ado, I'd like to bring in Ms. P to the show to talk with us.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing, Amber?
There. Hi, world. Hey, Kwame. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you feeling?
I'm doing good.
All right. So happy for you to come on the show. We haven't had a show yet where we talked about college and career readiness, and this is an area that I'm very passionate about, an area of high interest for me, because I can think back about my own college experience and even my high school experience, and I don't think I was the most ready to go on to the next level. So I had to play a little bit of catch up. So it's great to have you here so you can share with us some tips on how we can navigate the whole process of college and career planning.
I'm ready.
All right. So the first question that I asked my guests to break the ice is a pretty easy one. Talk to us a little about yourself and what brought you into the education field.
I want to say my journey to education started when I was a young person. I actually had like a really nice childhood, I want to say. Got to do a lot of things, was a part of tons of programs, Girl Scouts, was a cheerleader, did all these wonderful things. And then towards my senior year, I started to notice that there was a gap in things that I'm supposed to know, going to be an adult, and there's things about the world that I don't know. So I feel like my advocacy started there. Like I wanted kids to have everything that they needed to have when they went off to whatever it was they were going to do next, because it wasn't happening for me. So I was just like, hey, I definitely want to work with young people. It was something that was on my heart to do from then. I wanted, to make sure that I had what I needed. And I figured there was going to be a bunch of kids that were in my same shoes that wanted to be better, do better. So I want to say my education experience started there. Then I decided I was going to go into teaching when I went into college. I said, you know what? I want to change this up, shake this up. This stuff is boring. And I continue to go on working with young people after school programs and that stuff, type of thing. And I was just like, you know what? I really like this. I got into education as a teacher. I was a special ed teacher went through the Teaching Fellows program. Had an interesting experience. I'm going to leave it at that. There's a lot there to unpack, but I had a great time for my first 3 years. And then I went on to working at a charter school. That was an interesting experience. That's a lot to unpack. And then I started working with an alternative high school program. And that's where I felt in love with what I'm doing now. I got to work with young people. I really got to help them to figure out what they wanted to do next. I got to really sit down with them and kind of unpack the mindset, because I was noticing that there's this type of mindset with underprivileged, we'll call them, because that's what everybody calls them.
Sure.
With those type of youth, they have a lot on them, right? It comes from everywhere. Their teachers, their parents, the counselors that they work with is telling them they ain't jack. So having to unpack that before even diving into, you need to graduate, right? You have until you're 21 in the city of New York. You have until you're 21 to graduate, right? So these kids were like over age. They're done with education. They don't want to be part of it. They don't want get away from me. Stop talking about this. I don't care. Just give me my diploma so I can go, right? And having them to sit there and reflect on what it is that they want. Do you want to be in the same position, or do you want something better?
Right.
And we saw this like 363, what is it, 180 or 360? I ain't no math teacher. Let's do it. Okay, I ain't math. But you would see them transform. It's 360, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Then I was right. You would see them transform into different versions of themselves. And it was just so crazy to me that you sat down with somebody for 20, 30 minutes a week, and just that 20, 30 minutes changed their life forever, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I need more of this. I need more of this, because I wasn't getting paid enough. I was like, listen here, this magic that happened ain't coming for free. Now, y'all got to pay something, because this don't make no sense. And there was a ceiling. So it's like you're a youth advisor, and then the next thing would be, I believe it was an internship coordinator, and that's working with, the jobs and money and all that stuff. But there's such a disconnect with what you can do and what you can teach them in that position. Then there's the program director, which is great, but I felt like those people never went home. I was like, I want to have a life too.
I hear that.
I want to enjoy. I want to, and make impact at the same time. And so I was like, none of these positions called to me. What can I do? And so I met with a man at the program, and he was telling me, he said, people pay a killing for you to come into their schools and do the stuff that you do with these people here. And I said, what? For real? I didn't even know that consulting was a job. Like, I thought it was like you hire somebody within or something like that. I didn't realize that that was something that I could make, a job for myself. And so that's how I kind of landed into this world was, I had things that I had on my heart. I knew what I had to offer the world. I knew that there wasn't anywhere else that I could do what I wanted to do, to be as creative as I wanted to be, because that was another issue when you're look like this, chocolate and young.
Sure.
They treat you a certain way in education. They really do. They don't believe you have the skill set. They don't believe that you are capable. They don't care about any of that. They're like, I have the skin in the game, so this young person ain't gonna come in here and tell me nothing. And that's pretty much what my education experience was like. I was bullied. It was bad. It was bad. I had severe anxiety when I was working as a special ed teacher. Did not have support. I barely got observed. It was like they didn't believe my job was a real job. But then I took on a dance position along with my special ed position, and they treated me better in the dance position than they did in the special ed position, which was very interesting. Very interesting. It was like, oh my gosh, there goes the dance teacher. It's like, yeah, but y'all pay me for special ed, so I'm gonna need you to get my title right. So it was just very interesting. And also there was just a lot for me watching how young people, especially in special education, how they're treated. And how they treat the adults that work with them. And I was just like, you know what? I can't do this from the inside. There needs to be some change. I can't do it from where I am, but I bet you I can make impact from outside. And that's pretty much how I got to where I'm at now.
It's so amazing you mentioned that, because that was the same reason why I made a transition from classroom teaching to educational consulting, because I felt like you can only do but so much within the four walls of your classroom. And there's certain restrictions that come into play when you work for a school district or a school community. And in order for you to really maximize your impact with your students, you sometimes have to remove yourself from that sanctuary of a classroom that you love so much in order to provide a better experience for those students. So I can definitely attest to what you're saying there. And I was also a former special education student. I was bullied as well. And I did get support from my mom. I got support from my special ed teacher. But the amount of trauma that you experience
Thank you.
from your friends,
Other people.
from your friends and other people, that's what resonates with you as you grow into adolescence, as you transition to adulthood. Those things don't necessarily go away. So you have to make a decision as to whether you should, live in that experience and reflect upon it, or are you going to use it as a way to galvanize yourself and respond in a way that's going to make you more productive in society? And I just decided to choose the latter, just as you did.
Yep.
So
I wonder what my kids' experience was like. Like, I think for me, one thing that I was told, and I remember this, like, it still bugs me inside.
Right.
I remember a principal I worked for, I couldn't take anymore. As a special ed teacher, I wasn't getting any support. And so I told him as much, and I told him, you know what, I'm going to have to quit. Like, this is too much for me. And I remember him saying, oh, don't worry, nobody will remember you.
He really said that?
He really said that. He
What?
really said that. And a year later, I kid you not, at the alternative high school I was working at, in the GW campus, GW Stand Up, love that YABC program. In the building, there are like 3 other schools or something like that. In one of the schools, I had 3 of my old students from that 8th grade class. And the first thing they said to me, Miss, you left us. We was hurting. We was sad because you left. But he said, and I quote, no one will remember you. So I wonder how much trauma, like you said, how much trauma they carry also from the turnover that happens in schools. Like, like that also is something that weighs on me, is like, when people leave, like, what trauma do they experience from watching people year after year? It's a different face.
Right.
Nobody is the same. I can't build with you because, 5 minutes later, it's going to be a new person in your spot. I always wonder about that as well. So,
right.
Thanks for bringing that up.
And that's something that we struggle with as educators, especially Black educators, because we understand that our role goes beyond just teaching our curriculum. We know it goes well beyond that. It's a very personal mission.
Yeah.
Because we realize that within our school space, we're going to be doing more. Yeah. And many people have called it the invisible tax. There's these additional responsibilities that you don't see on the contract that you already know that you're going to be responsible for doing, just for the simple fact that you are a Black man or a Black woman, and you can relate to the kids who look like you in these spaces. And we realize that if we leave after a year, there's some guilt that's involved. We feel guilty for leaving them, but then at the same time, do you do it at the expense of your emotional welfare?
Yeah.
That's the decision you have to make. That's the question you have to ask yourself. And that's something that I've struggled with, and I know you've struggled with it. And and that's why sometimes when we stay in a certain school, we overstay our welcome. Because of that simple fact.
Don't I know it?
But I do want to talk to you about your app, because you have an app that helps students and parents get ready for college.
Yes.
And it's the On Track for College app, which I'm going to tell you this right here. I actually downloaded it just to check it out. It's still on my phone. And it is the real deal, people. You get notifications on deadlines, and you're able to get a sense of when certain paperwork, certain documentation needs to be submitted. It's very much on point, and you can customize it based on your specific needs within the college admissions process. So I want you to talk to the audience about the features that students and parents can experience on your app.
Well, so let me tell you the little like short story about how it came about. So On Track for College is like part of a system that I created. So when I started as a college advisor, I had nothing. When I say nothing, nothing. All the books were outdated, dust on them. It was bad. And my students that I had, the books that they had was not on their level, unfortunately. So I needed to like create something quick for them. So I felt like every week I had to create my own worksheets because I wanted them to get something out of it. I wanted them to be able to reflect. That's a big piece to me, is reflection. Also, like youth development principles is all weaved through all out my work, everything, the app, on the workbooks, everything that I do is in youth development. Everything has to do with youth development. And so for young people to develop, they need to be able to reflect on why they are doing certain things. And I feel like that's the question that was missing out of everything that I picked up, every workbook that I picked up. There was no why. It was get ready for college. Here's the deadlines. Do your essay, do your this, do your that, right? But nothing about why they're doing it. Why are you even going to college? Do you even know if the job that you want, does it have a requirement that you need to go to college, right? Do you know if you have to go, do you even know what the requirements are? And most kids couldn't tell me. And I was just like, wait a minute, hold on. You going to college when? In the fall? Oh. You don't know you only know FAFSA. Oh, that's it? You did your applications? Yes. So there's a long list. There's about close 63, 65 steps to the full college process from exploration to transition. Most people only know FAFSA, applications, the end, right? And there's so much more, and missing any one of those steps, especially if you're a student of color, especially depending on your economic status, if you miss a single step, it's a wrap for you. You're not going to college when you want to go, right? So I wanted to put all the information that they needed in one place. And so after I created the workbooks, I was like, they still not getting it. Something's still not right. Like, Miss, where I go to do the FAFSA? FAFSA.gov? Did you Google it? No. Okay. Where do I do my applications? Common App. Did you Google that? Nope. Okay. So said, you know what? Let me put it all in your face. Let me spell it out for you so that you don't get lost in the sauce. You know exactly where you need to be, what you need to be doing, and when. Because I think that was a big thing for me. And I think doing the research, so I have a survey on there because I just wanted to get some more information. I had to understand like their mindset. What scares them about college? Like what are they hoping to do? What don't they know? And what I noticed is that in doing some of the marketing, so I didn't do a ton of marketing online, but I do a ton of marketing when I do speaking engagements. And one of the things that I do is I sit down and I have interviews with students. And I just ask them like, who's talking to them about college? Where are they getting information about college? And it hurt me that a lot of them weren't getting information about. They knew they had to do certain things, but they didn't know the full laundry list of things that they needed to do. Yes. Besides the application, besides doing the FAFSA, besides those things, they don't know any of the other things that come into play. They don't know the cost structure. That's a big one. And that's what I tell parents too. Like, did you see?
It's huge.
You see how much it costs? You got money? You've been saving? And a lot of them don't, right? And it's not a conversation that's had. And I think also unfortunately, there are some counselors that are afraid to ask some of those hard questions, right? They're not trained to do that. They're trained to give you information. This is when FAFSA night is happening. This is senior night. We're going to talk about this and that. We ain't going to talk about your pocket or your budget because that's not our business. Good luck. Good luck filling out the FAFSA. But other than that, they kind of leave them alone, right? You have great counselors that go above and beyond, but even that's backbreaking work, yes, right? Even with a small caseload, that's a lot. So imagine a school with one, like their ratio is 1 to 241 or 1 to 542, or like a school that's in what is it, Staten Island, 1 to 800 and something. Who is supposed to have one-on-ones with all those kids? Not possible.
Wow. Yeah.
So the app came about from that, like knowing my own experience as a college counselor and knowing the questions they're going to ask me. You know what? Guess where you can go to the app. Go look it up. Right now, I don't have to say much because now I can leverage technology to help me to have those conversations. So that's pretty much where the app came from. And one of the features that I have on it that I love is the flashcard feature. So colleges expect you to come in knowing the jargon, which don't make no sense. It's like they've never been to school. Hello, they've never been to college, right? But they need to know what matriculation and bursars and all these weird words that they've never heard before. They need to know what they mean because it can affect, how well they are in the enrollment process. So I wanted to make sure that they had that information. So that is in the Get Started section. The Info Center breaks down all of the little bits and pieces down to like what you need to do to get ready to enroll. Also, like having conversations with the parents. I have a special part on there for the parents because they need to understand how to finance education. That's the question I get all the time. Where am I supposed to get this money from? I don't know. like this, I don't know where to tell you. Like you got to be in it. Like, and there are different ways that you can, there's tax breaks. There's so many different ways that you can finance your education or make it more affordable, but nobody's talking about it. Right. The other thing is the resource section, and I broke it down now. I got some great advice from a homie of mine, Chris King, to break it down into tracks. So now you can just go in and figure out the information you want to know. So if it's like, oh, I want to learn about scholarships, boom, go to the scholarship section. A list of scholarship sites that you can use to start searching for scholarships are on there. In the college exploration portion, there is like tours that you can do online, the Common app. The HBCU has a Common application that nobody knows about. You can pay $35 whole and get access to all the doggone HBCUs for one price instead of doing it one by one. There's so many different things that's out there that people just don't know about. So I wanted to kind of coordinate that information so that it was there for them whenever they needed it. So that's pretty much the app in a nutshell. Oh, and the notifications, pretty much all year, every week, I'm telling you what part of the process you need to be in or what you should be working on. So there's no, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to start. Download the app to get on track.
Yes. And the app is free. I downloaded it myself and I get the notifications. I wish I had this app when I was a high school senior 20 years ago. I wish I had this app because here's what I do know. I know I wanted to go to college. And I come from a West African family who prioritized education. All my parents went to college. My siblings went to college. So college was the expectation for all of us after high school. We didn't have any idea that there were alternative programs that existed. We didn't have any idea that there were community colleges and internships and all these other pathways you can take post high school. So I wanted to ask you, let's say that there are some students who graduate from high school, but they know for a fact they don't want to go to college and they want to go right into the workforce. What advice would you give to those students who are in that bucket?
Do your research, period. Do your research. So here's the thing with those students are often targeted by predatory universities, colleges. There's a lot of predatory people out there, predatory businesses that act like colleges. I don't even call them colleges. They call themselves colleges. They're not colleges. They do not promise, like they promise you a bunch of stuff, but they don't give you all the things that they say they're going to give you, right? So with everything, you have to do your research. I do recommend getting some form of training. And that's part of the reason why you should do your research. Also knowing what careers are out there for someone who does not want to, like if you don't want to go to college, you need to figure out what other things you can do, right? And you want to figure out what careers are there, and that type of thing. So you really need to figure that out. So that's really, really important, that you know what kind of careers are out there for you, how much they pay. Do you need a certificate? Do you need a license? Do you need to be a part of that? And also finding some training programs. There's tons of free training programs out there that, free training programs that would provide you a certificate. In New York City specifically, we have something called Co-op Tech, which I love. And it's like a CTE program, Career Technical Education, right? So Career Technical Education will give you the thing that you want. You get your certificate, you get, job skills, you get mentorship, and then you can go on into the workforce. I recommend going that route because sometimes I feel like people's eyes are like their dreams are not big enough, right? They're like, okay, I'm going to go into the workforce, but then they'll go like, I'm going to work at Foot Locker. And that's great, especially if you have pressing responsibilities. Because let's be real, there's a lot of young people who have to grow up way before their time.
Yes.
Not taking that from anybody. If you need to work part-time, that's great. But when we're thinking about careers, we're thinking about real money, right? Think about that real money. We really need to do all that we can to like prioritize that. We need to do our research, find the careers, and there's tons of careers. One thing that I love to use is called the Occupational Outlook Handbook. I love it to death. I actually found out about it when I was connecting a special education student to services. So they pretty much, we have a program here called Access, and I believe there's something like it in every state. I'm not sure what they're called in your state, but they have programs like this that work with special education students to make sure that they have a track to follow. And then they provide training in like books and whatever they need to be successful. They do all of that stuff. So that's really, really important. It's definitely something to check out. But the Occupational Outlook Handbook is something that they recommended the students to do before they even signed up with a counselor, because they're like, you need to know what it is that you want to do, right? So that we're going to pay for it, but you need to know what it is. You need to know how much it's going to pay. You need to know that you're going to be taken care of, right? Because that's the important part. You get in a career to do what? You want to have your own apartment, right? You want some lights, right? You want some food, right? All that stuff is important. So if you need all of that stuff, you definitely need to make sure that you have a job that's going to pay for all of that, to pay for your lifestyle. So that's something that I always tell young people. Figure out what kind of lifestyle you want first and then work from there. Even if you're going directly into the workforce, understand what that landscape is like. Understand if there's going to be a job for you, because that's important.
That's
demand.
True.
Right? People go into jobs that are dying, and it's like, oh, when I'm done my certificate program, now I can't find a job. Why? Because they're not hiring. You didn't do your. So yeah,
that is very important to know, because when you look at the age we're in with technology, a lot of those manual labor jobs that were very popular in the 70s and 80s, they're now going away. You don't see them anymore, because they're being taken over by high-tech companies, startups. You have people who are much younger than I am, and they're already getting their first $1 million because they figured out how to utilize social media to monetize their talents. That's the age we're in. We're in Generation Z. And the millennials that are in front of us are digital natives, and they know how to use technology 10 times better than we do. And I'm not ashamed to acknowledge that. If anything, I'm learning from them. I'm picking their brain to find out how I can maximize on what I'm able to do. But I know that we are running low on time, and thankfully you did hit a lot of the questions I was going to ask. So thank you for that. But I have one question, one more, and then you could share your social media information. Now, how has COVID-19 impacted the college admissions process for our graduating seniors? Because we know that's impacted the way that we do learning, but I also have heard reports about certain universities contemplating about starting the school year in the spring as opposed to the fall. You have some students who are thinking about taking a gap year to work because of the uncertainty of the university that they chose to enroll in. So there are a lot of question marks still out there. So I wanted to get your take on the impact of COVID-19 as it pertains to the college admissions process for high school seniors.
So COVID-19 has messed up everything. Oh my God. Like it's a mess. Let's say that it's a mess, and there's still a lot to navigate. There are some schools who are literally day by day, like literally taking it day by day because there's so much changing. Even in the way the virus is, caught, like people don't want to stay home. So because the virus is still very much alive, they have to like figure out what they're going to do. I've seen there are some schools who are like going to be completely online for the first semester, and they'll figure things out during the spring. I've seen some schools that are like, no, we're open. We want you to come. You can still dorm with us, and then we'll figure out things as we go along. What we did know is when everything went down, what happened was kids were displaced, and there was a lot of kids displaced. So yep. Oh, there goes Marsha. So there were a lot of kids displaced, a lot of them. And so because they were displaced, it caused a rift for a lot of people. A lot of people are still like, I don't know what I want to do. I've had parents that are like, what do you think I should do? And at this point, it's based on your level of comfortability. If you feel like it's going to be a lift for you to go, right? You can take a semester off. You can defer your application. That is totally fine. You want to check in with the schools to see what the policies are around that, but that's a possibility. If you want to, maybe go to the school up the block, right? Because it's safer. It's not something that's going to be like, oh, they're going to push me out in the middle of the semester, which happened to a lot of students. We had a lot of students who were homeless, a lot of students who were foster, justice involved, all that stuff. They got displaced. And then it's like, what the heck do I do now? Right. So there's a lot of things going on when it comes to COVID-19. So the best advice I can give is to check in with the colleges and see what their plan is. What is the plan for reopening? Are you going to be reopened, right? That's questions that you have to ask them, because I think some people are winging it right now and they're just like, well, we'll see. But there's a cost, right? There's a cost that comes with this, right? If you apply for financial aid, there's a cost that comes with this. So you have to really ask those hard questions. What are you guys doing for the fall? Is it going to be online learning? Because if I'm going to online learning at a private university and I'm paying $40,000 a year, I might as well go up the block, save myself a couple of dollars for the first year, and then go into the school of my choice the next year when everything is figured out, right? That's an option. I'm not saying to do that. That is on you, and that's the conversations that need to be had right now between the parents and the students. I would say that's one. Parents and students, have conversations together. What are we doing? What is our safety plan? What happens if, I go away and something happens? Who's coming to get me? Have that plan in place. I don't think anybody was thinking that something like this was going to happen. So that was hard for a lot of people to figure out. Okay, well, I got here. Now, how am I getting back home? Right? So that's a big deal. The other thing is like figuring out what their learning plan is going to be. How do they support students? Because I realized also there's a lot of students who do not learn well online.
Yeah.
They don't.
Adults as well.
Right. Adults as well. So I need to be in your face and asking you questions and raising I need that from my level of comfortability. If that's something that's not happening, then you have to ask those questions. They should be able to tell you what does the support structure look like? And is there going to be tutoring available, right? How are you guys doing the writing center and all these other things that you get being on a college campus? How are you doing this? That's the questions that need to be asked right now. But I noticed that a lot of people are like, they don't like asking the questions, or they get on the phone, they didn't get an answer right away. Stay the course, because it's messy. It's messy. It's been messy for all of us. It's messy for the schools too.
Yeah, it's very messy, very messy. And thank you, Marsha, for the tips and the news. So, Hostos Community College, quick story. One of my old college roommates at Temple transferred from Hostos Community College. So he's from the Bronx, diehard Yankee fan, Giovanni Ramos. And he went to Hostos Community College for the first couple of years before transferring to Temple University, my alma mater. And he used to tell me just great things about the community college. So that's just my Hostos Community College story. And thank you, Marsha, again, for letting us know that there are community colleges that are still offering classes in the fall and accepting students. So if you're someone that needs to, let's say, take remedial courses, maybe need to just take some of those low-level classes and then transfer later on to a 4-year university, community college is a viable option. You should not overlook that. You should look into it.
I started at a community college.
Right. There's no shame in it. And mind you, I come from a family that didn't know about community colleges. They just knew about 4-year universities because that was their experience. So that became our expectation. We didn't get exposed to all these other options that we know of now. So it's really important for us to weigh all of our options, especially during this time of COVID-19.
Yeah.
But Amber, this has just been an awesome conversation, and there's just not enough time to really talk about the importance of college and career readiness. It's such an essential topic that doesn't get spoken about enough in our schools. And I just find it to be an atrocity when we look at the budgets of so many school districts. One of the first people who get laid off are guidance counselors, college counselors at the high school level. They're always among the first to get cut off, along with your creative arts teachers. And it doesn't make sense if the goal for so many of these schools is to get these students to higher learning. But you're going to cut the people off who are responsible for getting them prepared for that next level. That's another conversation for another day.
It sure is, because I got a lot to say about that. I got a lot to say about that. I feel like it's almost purposeful sometimes that they do it. But
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you have a lot to say. But before you leave, I do want to give you an opportunity to talk with us about your website and to let people know how they can get in touch with you. So I'm going to put your website up, and I can navigate the website as you speak. So just walk us through some of the information that parents and students can find on your site.
So if you are looking to work with someone on your plan, I advocate for planning. I think people should really have a strategic plan for everything in their lives, but especially when it comes to college and career. I've been on both sides of the fence where you see young people who are gung-ho about going get messed up, right? They have these huge bills that they can't pay, or they're in tons and tons of debt because there were things that weren't talked about prior to them, making that decision. So I offer strategic planning sessions. We talk about everything from what do you want to do to here are some resources that can support you, trying to think through where they are, what state they're in, because that's also important about what types of funding you can get, what kind of services are there for a particular child, like a child that does receive special education services. They have to navigate college a little bit differently than somebody who is so-called general ed. So that's really important. I also have a ton of resources on my page that I created. So I have my worksheets up. I have the workbooks, and I have a few of them right here. So definitely, this is the parent workbook. I advocate for all parents need to have this book, and I'll tell you why. When you go to some of these senior nights and junior nights, they only give you probably about an hour and a half of information. There's no way that everything you needed to talk about was in that 1 hour and a half. It's not possible. So in the book, there's different planning sheets and websites that they can look at, and thinking about like where they can find scholarships and thinking about their savings plan, and all that stuff is inside of the book. The app download is there. You can download it. It's free. There will be a section of the app that's going to be a membership. So it's going to be a subscription-based membership, and it's going to be like how-to videos. There's going to be a forum where we can answer questions and things of that nature. It's going to be really cool. So that's going to be another option, because I do want people who want the support to be able to get the support. What I do notice is that sometimes people within this work, they overcharge. They charge like $1 bazillion for 1 hour to sit down with them, and that doesn't feel good to me at all. So I want to make sure that people still have that same level of support. They were getting me one-on-one, but they have it in a group style format. So that's coming soon. My appiversary is July 12th, so it should be coming out around that time.
Wow.
But yeah, they can go on there. They can, if you don't want to get the workbook, you could get a worksheet. So that career plan, it's a sheet that works with that occupational outlook handbook that I told you guys about. And then there's some reflection questions about certain things about a job that might be important to a young person. And then the college exploration worksheet, that one is based on the schools that they want to go to being a good fit for them. Because I noticed that people pick schools arbitrarily. I'm just going to pick the school that I think I should be going to because my friends go there, or my mom says this is top of the line, you're going, kind of thing. And sometimes it's not a good fit. So figuring out what your fit is, and also looking at the school more closely. What is their debt? What happens after you graduate? What kind of debt will you be in? What kind of job can you get? Right? All those type of things. These are things that nobody looks at. Right? So that's part of that worksheet. And then the workbooks are on there. So yeah. If you want to get on track with me, get on track. I'm here for it all.
And if you look at all these prices, people, these are very affordable prices for very important information. You're talking $5.50 for the exploration worksheet, $5 to build a career plan, a free app that pretty much walks you through the admissions process and preps you for how to get ready for a career. These are all things that I didn't receive during my high school years, and it's no fault of the counselors, because I went to a pretty good high school, but I was naive and I just didn't know how involved the college admissions process was. I mean, I filled out a FAFSA just like everybody else. I took the SAT 3 times just to crack over 1,000. And a fun fact, and I've never told anybody this before, the only reason why I ended up attending Temple University was because they had a really good basketball team and I liked the colors. And
now imagine how many young people were in your shoes. You're not the only one. I can guarantee you that.
I'm not even gonna lie. It was because of those reasons, and also the fact that it was in a big city like Philadelphia, because I come from a small town in Connecticut, and I didn't learn about jaywalking until I got to Philly. I had never taken a train or a subway until I got to Philly. A lot of my first happened while I was in Philly, as far as becoming a city person. And now I just like being in the city. I feel like I'm a city person now after spending time in Philly. And now I'm here in Boston, doing the same thing. So it's definitely something that young people need to know. They need to really be aware of how to select college and be very thoughtful and meticulous about doing that.
Absolutely.
But Amber, thank you so much for being on the show. And real quickly, can you just share with people your social media handles so that they can follow you?
Awesome. So on Instagram, it's On Track with Mizz P. There's 2 Z's. Don't be replacing my Z's with S's. They're purposeful. Okay. So On Track with Mizz P, 2 Z's. And on Facebook, it is Mizz P. And on LinkedIn, I'm Amber Peters, but you got to look through because, you know, Amber Peters don't look like this girl here. So you're probably going to see a bunch of Amber Peters that don't like this girl here. So I'm definitely on there. So you can look me up on there as well.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to put that information in the comments after the show. But thank you again, Amber, for being on, and we hope we talk with you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right.
Bye,
have
world.
a good night. All right, bye-bye. So there you have it, people. Just an awesome episode of Identity Talk for Educators Live. Hopefully for the parents who tuned in, you learned a lot about what you can do to help your students, whether they're high school seniors or not. You've learned a lot about how to navigate the college admissions process, but also a little bit about career readiness in case your child decides they want to go right into the job force. So before we wrap up, I want to make a few announcements, as always. So the first one I want to talk about is our upcoming event. So Identity Talk Consulting, which is my organization, in collaboration with Teach for the Culture, which is founded by my good friend, Shauna Brown, we're going to put together an Instagram live conversation series for new and future teachers of color. Now, for our non-teachers of color who like to partake in the conversation, you're more than welcome. We welcome allies because I feel like we need you in the conversation, especially now during these times where racial tension is increasing throughout our country. We need to have more dialogue about what we can do together to transform the way that education is done, not just in our schools, but also in our teacher prep programs as it pertains to teachers of color. So if you're interested in being a part of the conversation, there are a few things you have to do. Number one, make sure you follow myself at Kwame, KWAM underscore the underscore identity underscore shaper, and my friend Shauna at Teach for the Culture on Instagram. And then also tag a friend who you know is a teacher of color, or it could just be a friend who's in education who just wants to be a part of the conversation. We're trying to get as many people as possible to partake in the series, which is going to happen all throughout the month of July, and it'll be on every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And also, there'll be weekly giveaways. So we're going to be giving away all kinds of gifts for some lucky winners every week during that month. So you don't want to miss that. So make sure you share this with your networks. And then also, if you would like to be a guest on the show, you need to make sure that you contact me at identitytalk4educators@gmail.com. We're not just looking for those educators who are in the classroom teaching. We're looking for educators who are in the community doing the work with young people or even with adults. You could be a basketball coach. You could be a volleyball coach. You could be a custodian, a janitor. You could be just a parent, a child advocate. If you're doing something to uplift and educate others in your community, we want to have you on the show so we can highlight your story and put you on the spotlight. So if you fit that description, or if you know someone who fits that description, make sure to email me at identitytalk4educators@gmail.com, and we'll find a way to get you on the show. And those are my announcements for today. So on behalf of Amber Peters, I am Kwame Sarfo-Mensah, signing off. I wish you all a good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the world. We're going to do this again another time. Peace out, people.